Is it possible, Madam Secretary, that people could be held at Guantanamo Bay indefinitely? Could women, children, and families be held there at Guantanamo?
John Iadarola of the Damage Report, which is part of the Young Turks sort of channel family, talks about Kristi Noem here, and is taking a look at a clip of her struggling with, talking about Trump's recent Gitmo order. I'm going to have some opinions to add along the way. That's what I'm doing here. And then I want to know what you think in the comments, but let's get right into it.
So these are obviously really important questions, and spoiler alert, you're not gonna like what passes for an answer from Kristi Noem. But we're gonna get to that. We're gonna get to more of it. I just want to say that I know there's a big focus on budget and cutting down budgets. I'm pretty sure we could knock a significant percentage of government spending out if we were to just raid her closet for her Border Patrol stuff. Like, what is with all the cosplay? Like, that's fit for an entrance to the Royal Rumble right there. This is like a real job. It's not supposed to be like, look at me, I'm country now or whatever. Except it is, because that's what Fox actually wants. They want everyone to be in their like the fake trash man costume that Trump puts on, the fake hat there. They want their rich fake populists to dress up in the cosplay of real people, and they're fine with that. But unfortunately, she is actually in this position, and here's a response to these incredibly important concerns.
Is it possible, Madam Secretary, that people could be held at Guantanamo Bay indefinitely?
That is not the plan. The plan is to have a process that we follow that's laid out in law, and make sure that we're dealing with these individuals appropriately according to what the state and the national lawsuit or law directs. So we will work with Congress to make sure that we're addressing our legal immigration laws and using Guantanamo Bay appropriately. But it is an asset that we have that we fully intend to utilize.
Okay, so when a person asks you if people could be held indefinitely anywhere, but let's say particularly at Guantanamo Bay, considering the last couple of decades, the correct answer, the only answer is, of course not. Of course, we're not going to have families there indefinitely. That's insane. You could even do that. You could do your right-wing spin and be like, no, obviously, look at your fake news. We would never do that. We will never do that. Kids are never even going to end up there, let alone held indefinitely. Families aren't going to be separated there. Women and children aren't going to be held indefinitely. No, that's not what she says. She said, that's not the plan. First of all, agree to disagree, because I'm fairly certain that is the plan, but that is also not at all reassuring. That is not the plan, and we're going to comply with Congress. Like, you guys even remember that a Congress actually exists.
Well, that's the other thing too, is that now that they're in power, is the plan to shift. They're like, oh, problem, that's not the plan. But she also sort of added verbiage that's kind of like, well, it's there, it's ours, and we're going to use it. So, I mean, we got voted in, we're running things now. This is what you wanted. Yeah, I mean, we're going to use the tools available to us. That's that they try and make it sound reasonable, but the answer is yes.
This is going to stand up and be like, the Republicans will be like, oh man, I've always been really anti-immigrant, but I have to be honest, the stuff I saw at Guantanamo is really making me worried. Like, that's going to happen. She had an opportunity to reassure people that it is not going to be the utterly barbaric, filled with illegality, likely torture, concentration camp that we've been saying. And I want to be being hyperbolic. I want to be exaggerating. But it doesn't look like that's how it's shaking up. And she could have reassured us that I'm the insane person, but I don't come out of that interview thinking that. I think that she is. I think that Trump is. I think that DHS, Border Patrol, ICE, and they are the ones. And so and then I'm gonna add on one other thing. Ken Klippenstein continues to do great reporting in this area and in others. And so ICE is no longer gonna consider if, quote, an alien is a victim of a crime, a positive discretionary factor. Which means that if you are an undocumented, let's say woman, you're a 23-year-old woman or whatever, and you're raped, and you report it, you will likely be deported as a result of that. Which is a strong intentional message to them Don't believe that you can trust law enforcement to help you no matter how horribly you're victimized. And it's also a message to potential criminals. You can do whatever the hell you want to migrants because they will be far too terrified to do anything. They're going to be more afraid of law enforcement than they will of the criminals robbing them, assaulting them, raping them, maybe trying to kill them. That is the intent and the effect of what they're doing there. And so we're going to play one more clip for you. Kristi Noem, by the way, she goes on and on and on, and it's unbearable. And so we've trimmed this down, but here is some more of what happened.
Could women, children, and families be held there at Guantanamo?
You know, if you look at what we are doing today is targeting the worst of the worst. We've been very clear on that. The priority of this president is to go after criminal aliens that are making our streets more dangerous.
But I guess, Madam Secretary, my question, would you rule out that women, that children, that families could be held at Guantanamo Bay? Do you rule that out?
You know, Krista, we're going to use the facilities that we have, and I think you're well aware, we have other detention facilities, other places in the country. So we will utilize what we have according to what's appropriate for the individuals.
Yeah, so they're going to send kids, and they're going to send women. Oh, whoa, we're targeting the worst of the worst. No, you're not. No, you're not. Day one, you weren't targeting the worst. Carolyn, whatever faces, already went on the podium and said, when we say criminal, we mean that they're here against the law. It's not even a criminal violation, but we're going to pretend that it is. That's why they're criminals.
Well, in the list of what defines criminality in that list is, or if they have been accused of shoplifting, right? So if they murdered people, if they raped people, if they're stolen a bunch of stuff, they've been convicted of a crime, or if they've been accused of shoplifting. So then it's a pretty big loophole.
It's not already the worst of the worst. They're going to send women and children to Guantanamo. So just mark that down on your calendar. The pause from her. Oh, dear God, the pause and the dead eyes, the eyes of, I don't know, hypothetically a person who could like gun down a dog in cold blood. Oh yeah, she's going to have empathy. She's going to see like crying children, and that's just going to break her icy heart, JR. This is
what sycophants and brown nosers are put in place to do. This is why there's yes men. They don't know anything. She literally has no idea what's happening. It's like, that's what the blank stares are. She wasn't prepared to answer the question of whether or not they're going to hold people indefinitely in Guantanamo Bay. This is the Department of Homeland Security. And she's on there with her cowboy hat on because that means that she means business. It's all, again, I'll say it again, it's the lazy politics. It's a show. He always talked about central casting. You know, he always mentioned that? He needs casting. He needs characters in place to come off as a look while nothing else that he's saying is actually true. She wasn't prepared to answer whether or not people be held there indefinitely. She was not prepared to answer whether or not women and children will be held there as well. She was like, oh, I never thought about these answers because I'm not doing anything but listening to whatever it is this guy and people that are around him are telling me to do. She doesn't realize that in Trump's MAGA presidency, she can come out, like you had a problem with her not saying. She could have come out and reassured you, John. She could have come out and said, absolutely not. Under no uncertain terms will women or children be held here. We will not be holding people there indefinitely, 100%. You can mark my words, write it down, fire me if it happens. And then after it does happen, she'll go, I mean, come on, this is MAGA. I mean, they don't have to say anything. It's blatant lies. We just talked about it with tariffs. We just talked about it with prices of groceries and everything going up. It's blatant lies. And then when they're broken, you just go, yeah, MAGA. That's all that it takes. So maybe by the next interview, Kristi Noem will be prepared to say, yeah, that's right. Everything that's supposed to sound bad, yeah, we're not going to do that, but we'll do it anyway. Oh,
no, they're not. They're not, because what we're doing with the sane washing and the whitewashing is we're trying to they went from outrage, like how dare you accuse us of such things. Now the fake outrage isn't necessary. What they're trying to do is make the crazy sound reasonable. Well, this is actually a good thing. I mean, we're going to use the tools available to us. It's legal, it's dubiously legal. It was never fully legitimately legal if you look at it. And the truth of the matter is, he's right. They're just rubber stampers, right? They've just been put in place because they are willing to literally rubber stamp yes anything he says. He wants zero pushback. There is no plan. So you can't come on here and assert strongly one thing or another because it may contradict a future plan, and that's it. Musical chairs, music is over, you're out.
That dog, he totally had it coming.
Yeah,
She did that already.
It took 2 shots, and I enjoyed the second one more than the first. Like we are governed by utter sociopaths. Just utter, like there's so many terms that can be applied to what our government is. An oligarchy, I mean, I don't even think that is enough anymore. I mean, did like post-Soviet Russia have an equivalent of Elon Musk? Like going into the security systems individually? Like this is corrupt beyond anything we've seen before. A kleptocracy, obviously, the entire purpose of this is to enrich themselves. It is the farthest thing from anything that should be labeled populist. This is just to extract resources for the people who already have the most resources. That's literally all it is. It's also, what do they say? Kakistocracy, I think. It's ruled by the stupid. Yeah, it's ruled by the dumbest. Like, it's all of those things simultaneously. And also, I don't know what a government by sociopaths is, but that's definitely what it is. You look in her eyes and you see nothing. You see the void. It's like looking in Alex Jones's eyes. And that person, lives are going to depend on their judgment calls. By the way, does South Dakota have a governor right now?
Oh, this is depressing stuff, but it is all true. You know, the thing he references Russia, you know, Russia fell apart after the collapse of the Soviet Union, and Putin and his regime sort of rose out of it. It wasn't like it was a functioning representative democracy like we have had functioning. You can debate how functioning it has been, but for better or for worse, it has been a long-running model of, you know, the peaceful transfer of power. For the most part, we've all agreed to play by the rules. They are actively dismantling it now. That's what they're doing, is they are taking apart the pieces of it that put in balance, in check, what's essentially, you know, authoritarian power, the power of a monarch. The president becomes a king, and a tyrannical king, as we should know by this point. But let me know what you think in the comments.